level for the second time. John Dunning, high challenge, free in. John Dunning here, tackled by Neil Ewing, and once again it's the responsibility of Donal Shine. Listen to the cheers if this goes over. Roscommon are back in front. 9 points for Donal Shine. Satlab is working now. Inside the 45, has to release the ball. Free to Roscommon. Sligo protest, and there's an extra 13 metres going to be given to the people of Roscommon and their football team. Rank outsiders for the Connacht title. Sligo, having seen off the challenge of Galway and Mayo, may not after all win the Connacht Championship title. The referee blows the full-time whistle. Sligo are beaten. Roscommon have won their provincial title for the 20th time in their history, out of nowhere. Full-time score in McHale Park Castlebar. Roscommon 14 points, Sligo 13. In a year in which we lost, unfortunately, the great Dermot Early, and perhaps he's inspired them from the heavens, because Roscommon, for the 20th time in their history, are Connacht champions in what is undoubtedly one of the real surprises of 2010.
I suppose we always had the belief, you know. There's been a lot of critics about the team and saying we did have a bad year up to now, but really we had the belief always, and we're just delighted that we got the victory.
We had a goal at the start of the year was to get to a quarter-final, be it front door or back door, and it's still there for us if we wanted enough. Having said that, you know, it's going to be a huge ask to lift the spirits in the dressing room at the moment.
We're very happy today. We wanted to win a provincial final. We wanted to be in Croke Park, and if we had gone the qualifier route next week, I don't think that would have happened for us. So it's a great opportunity for us now.
An extraordinary result. Dara Ó Cinnéide, what did you make of that Roscommon performance?
That was a hugely important win for Roscommon football, not just on today, but where they've come from in terms of, you know, losing last year so catastrophically. They haven't had a great league campaign, as Donal Shine said there, and it's huge for the spirit going forward. It was a win, I suppose, really for hunger and for desire and for the traditional values. I think they did an awful lot of long kicking into the full forward line, which, you know, the purists always like to see. From the other point of view,
are you a purist? Yeah,
we'd like to think we are anyway. But from the other point of view, Sligo must be desperately disappointed. You'd think they'd had the hard work done, having beaten Galway and Sligo, Galway and Mayo coming into this game, and you know, there's bound to have been a small bit of complacency coming into this game. Whether it crept up on them, it didn't. It certainly manifested itself in the first half. It's hugely disappointing that it made an awful lot of basic errors coming out of defence with the ball, turned over a few times, wiped out at midfield, and you know, probably the best forward in the championship so far, David Kelly, kept in a very tight leash as well today. Very, very disappointing. But really, today is all about Roscommon, and coming from where they've come from, it's a huge, huge leap forward.
Indeed, and I suppose when you look at those incredible scenes of celebration at the end for all of the Roscommon people, in such stark contrast with the mood of Fergal O'Donnell 12 months ago.
You know, you do your best. You know, the lads did their best. We thought they were well prepared, but you know, unfortunately we were very poor, and you know, I'm embarrassed myself as manager. I put the team out myself and the selectors, and the team is embarrassed in there. You know, we had lots of supporters came up there, and that performance wasn't good enough, and you know, we're very disappointed.
That was after a 20-point defeat against Mayo with some turnaround. But where do you think they won it today?
Well, it's an old cliche, I suppose, that if you win midfield, you have a great chance of winning the game. And certainly today, Roscommon won the midfield battle hands down. Both Sligo midfielders were gone on 45 minutes, and they had form coming into the game today. They won, not just in the air, they won it on breaking balls. I thought Cahill Craig was excellent in breaking ball, and Cahill Janine, Sean Purcell, they were all brilliant in breaking balls. They won it in the air as well. You know, great performances. But you know, I suppose it just shows their hunger. You know, Carol Mannion here winning breaking ball, complimenting Micheál Ferran, who had missed the original catch. Carol Mannion again breaking ball, and Cahill Craig won a world of breaking ball today. You know, he's a player that's come on in leaps and bounds in the last couple of months, and here again we have Cahill Craig positioning himself well, winning the breaking ball, setting up Roscommon attacks, and you know that It surprised me because I would have seen that as a Sligo strength. You Keelan Cawley, Johnny Davy, these lads, they were always good under breaking ball up to now. But it just shows you the hunger. And there was no great tactical nuances from the Roscommon goalkeeper, Jeffrey Claffey, kicking the ball out. But this was the big one, really needed one here. Sets up the winning score from free for Duignan. But Carol Mannion made a big catch. They were just after conceding a point to level it at 13 apiece. That was a huge catch. But they definitely laid the platform today and wiped out Sligo at midfield.
You had fancied Sligo, I know, Tony, but I suppose we saw the emergence of a new star today, did we?
Without doubt. We did fancy Sligo because we thought they did all the hard work, and I'm sure they thought they did all the hard work as well. And I suppose they were going against the traditionalist. Roscommon have 20 Connacht titles, 21 now. But a new star did shine today. Don't he shine? Fantastic. I suppose if anyone hadn't heard of him up to now, certainly after today they'll take notice of him. And his general play was fantastic all around. Here we see a diagonal ball in. Now Noel Maguire is giving a half an acre space. But listen, you got to take them, you got to kick them over the bar, and he did all that all day. Now Cahill Craig, as Dara said, won a amount of ball in around midfield, won the break, high ball in, and again he does the simple thing, wins the ball and over the bar. Now he was very good on long range frees today. This is just outside the 45, I suppose about 50 yards out, and in no bother to him over the bar. He did miss some easier ones in closer to goal, but here we go again, a diagonal ball into the space in front of him. Okay, does he have a left leg? Of course he has. Over in his left leg, straight over the bar. Very hard to defend against that if he gets good early ball. Now he'll be getting a lot more attention the next round. This is the vital one, the last kick of the game, to put them 1 point up, to give them the Connacht Championship. For a 21-year-old, it was a fantastic performance. And a great tribute to Dermot Early Senior, as Marty said earlier on in the commentary.
Let's go to our audience and get some reaction. Liam McHale, as a Connacht man, what did you make of that? Were you as surprised as most people were?
No, not one bit surprised at all, Des. Being a Connacht man and knowing the tradition of both teams, I knew that the favouritism tag on Sligo would weigh very heavy on them. I think the interesting point, Sligo's strategy, game plan was different today. They set Eamon O'Hara in front of the full back line, in front of Noel Maguire against Mayo. They did the same against Galway. They didn't do that today. I'm surprised that Kevin didn't switch it at half-time and put somebody in front of Noel Maguire. He was obviously struggling. Great footballer. He's a full-back now that's getting a little bit older, is a step slow, and Donny Shine, put on an exhibition of football today. And I think that was one of the key issues. They were favourites today. They felt they didn't need to play a sweeper in front of the full-back line, and they got punished because of it.
Right. Tony Lean, sports editor, the Irish Examiner. We heard there Fergie is thrilled, obviously, that they're in a quarter-final, he said. But how do you think they'll cope now when they go out into the outside Connacht?
It was interesting to see him there, Des. He was talking about them being in bonus territory now. I mean, some people might think, that's a negative way to look at it, but I suppose you could also say that he's actually now taking the pressure, immediately off them. I mean, they will have that week or 10 days, to kind of soak things up and enjoy it. To be honest with you, you mentioned the quarterfinals. I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet. I just still think that the provincial winners, they still don't get an advantage, in terms of the actual quarterfinals. I still think, the GAA needs to maybe incentivise. I mean, I was talking to actually somebody last night and they were saying maybe this weekend we had the qualifier draw. Maybe the actual quarter-final draw could have been made as well, because, none of the provincial champions, and you're going right back to the July 4th and Kerry were the first ones in, they still don't know who they're playing in the quarter-finals. I don't think, to be honest with you, that's something that's going to, disturb Roscommon too much this week. They'll enjoy it. But I think, to be honest with you, next week, if Fergal thinks they're in bonus territory, I think they'll go into Croke Park and I think they'll basically give any opposition a game at this stage.
Right. Well, Dara O'Shea, Kerry, it was Dara Ó Cinnéide told me you tipped Roscommon to win this one. You're the only one I know who did.
I did. I felt like Liam said there. I felt that they had a good chance, particularly with their tradition and whatnot. And it was. I mean, they would have been very proud footballers and I suppose around Roscommon all week they'd have been hearing about Sligo and that Sligo were odds. And I mean 4-1, it was huge odds, we'll say, to be against them. But I mean, there was a lot of familiar faces, there was a lot of familiar names, I suppose, the O'Garas and the likes of Shine and these lads. They had a great game and they played it, like Dara said earlier, played a lovely brand of football as well. I mean, the forwards were in their own ball, they were kicking long direct ball, and there were some great scores up there as well. And it was a difficult job for Kevin Walsh. It was really teed up for Roscommon today, so but well done, I enjoyed it.
Great, okay. Well, we'll get to the Ulster final shortly, but now let's look at two of yesterday's big qualifier games.
Pat Gilroy's side showed the necessary character to see off battling Armagh at Croke Park. With Brian Cullen and Barry Cahill drafted in, Dublin had an early goal opportunity, but Alan Brogan drove his effort wide. Paddy O'Rourke's men opened